Hi, Maddie. Nice to see you.
Hello, Hayley, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. So, I've got a great topic for us to talk about today,
Mm-hmm.
and you're going to love it. And I think you actually made a video about this to clear this up. And so, you're going to know what I'm going to talk about. But I see so often in our industry these debates in Facebook groups around, are we allowed to take deposits? Can we charge booking fees? What's the difference? Which one's allowed? What happens when people cancel? What can we do? All of that stuff. And I think there's so much misinformation around that. And I
Mm-hmm.
remember you decided to make a video to help people. And I regularly send that video out to my clients to say,
Thank you.
here you go. Here is what is well researched. And so I want to have a conversation today all about deposits and booking fees and what's okay for our industry to be doing. But I want to start by asking you why you decided to make a video
Mm-hmm.
about that when you did.
So it was I see this pattern quite a lot in groups where people just repeat something so many times that it just becomes like it's like the gospel according to the hair Facebook group. And one of them that I see all the time, I still see it a lot, is you can't call it a deposit because a deposit's legally refundable. You have to call it a booking fee. And if you ask anyone where that came from, how that became fact, no one seems to know the answer. So I went on a little deep dive, as I do. I was also referred to as the biggest purveyor of misinformation on the topic, which is funny because I was reading verbatim from the Which website, which for anyone who's not in the UK is the UK like consumer, I guess, support group, and they put things into really plain English for consumers to look into. So, and I'm going to do the same again. And I just want to caveat, I'm not a lawyer, but what I am going to read and go over is, again, from the Which website. I'm going to stick that in the show notes. There's also a very thrilling document that I found for you from the UK government, and I'll put that in. And I'm going to just read some things from there, and I'll add what my perspective is of that, of like, oh, how what I interpret that to be, and I'm sure you will as well. But yeah, I just wanted to make something to just sort of fact check that a little bit, because it turns out that it's not actually true. But yeah, let's sort of get into this.
Okay. And so let's start with, where did the whole deposit versus booking fee thing come from? Like, where did it come from and what is it all about, Maddie?
From what I understand from my sort of research and trying to find where the core of this was from, none of it came from actual like legal places, or it didn't come from like the government or the Consumer Rights Act or anything like that. It came from actually America. This is what I understand it to be. It was the question came up by an American photographer. So don't ask me what American law is. I haven't got a freaking clue. But what I understand is there was some sort of case law over there, and then it just got muddled up, and we were like, okay, this is for us now. Maybe it was, via internet or forums or what have you. But no, it is not the case for us, in particularly here in the UK. So I'm going to read directly from Which, and this is a really good article that they've got, which is titled "Can I claim back a non-refundable deposit?" Right. So what a lot of people say is you can't call it a deposit because a deposit is legally refundable. You have to call it a booking fee. That's what we're going to sort of explore. So under the
Right.
question on Which, where it says, can a deposit be non-refundable? It goes on to say, just because something is written in a contract, it doesn't mean that it is always legally binding, as businesses ordinarily can't rely on unfair terms. And it says the amount kept by the company needs to be fair and representable of its actual loss. So the gist is terms need to exist, first and foremost, but you can't just enforce something that supersedes the law because you have written it into a term. So what I see people believe in is, oh, well, I use the words non-refundable booking fee, or I use the words non-refundable deposit, so therefore it is not refundable. Now, that's not necessarily the case. It has to be fair, which we can kind of talk about as well. And when people say booking fees, really a booking fee, if you think of any other company that you pay a booking fee to, like for example,
Mm-hmm.
we were talking in last week's episode about seeing Cabaret, that's like
Mm-hmm.
£100 ticket, maybe the booking fee is £3-4. Um,
Mm-hmm.
the booking fee generally will always be a very small portion, and it's to cover like the admin costs or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
to print a ticket out, that
Mm-hmm.
kind of thing. So
Yeah.
that should be like a fair proportion of the cost to make that booking. So really you're not going to get away with £100 colour with a £50 booking fee,
Yeah.
because that's
Yeah.
not
And
really
so what?
reasonable.
Yeah, it seems weird actually to even have a booking fee in our industry. Like, I feel like I'm not. Is a nail tech going to be charging someone £3 to make an appointment? Like, and would I be
Yeah.
right in thinking then that booking fees isn't really a thing in our world?
No.
Deposits is where we want to be putting our focus.
Yeah, like you say, no one's going to want to just hold on to a £3 booking fee is not going to put a client off from no showing. And actually, the whole point of this, the whole crux of why you would take a deposit or a booking fee, is to protect your income. That's literally what it's about, and why it's there to protect us as businesses. So having a down payment of whatever name we call it, to the tune of £3, £4, £5 for a couple of hours of work is not going to do that. So it's like we've got to make sure that it works for the business, but
Yeah,
also that it's like sort of
yeah.
named properly.
So a booking
Um,
fee is admin time, and that's just not
yeah,
massively relevant, is it?
like you could
But
do.
also, it's like if we got a refund on our cabaret tickets, they would keep their £3.
Yeah, because it's a fair part of processing
Yeah, we're
that.
like we did that process,
Yeah,
and I suppose they might even charge another one to do it the other way,
yeah,
but that's not going to protect hairdressers and beauty people's businesses. A
yeah.
booking
Like
fee.
the only
Hmm.
time I would maybe see that or expect to see that is perhaps like something where you do a consultation, where people might do a consultation fee. Because I know people sometimes get no shows with consultations because it's sort of free. But I mean, at my consultations for like 15, 20 minutes, some people's are even longer. So I would see, I would understand if someone said, I'm going to charge a £10 booking fee or a £10 consultation fee for that appointment. And then you might knock that off if they go ahead with the appointment. You might not. You might just say that's
Yeah.
to cover my time. But yeah, the key thing here is that they need to be legal, they need to be fair, and they need to be like
Hmm.
fairly proportionate in the cost of the business. Also, really importantly, clients need to know about them at the time that they make their booking. The most ideal way to do this is to have like something that they sign that they agree to, because you can't just, I know we do a lot of work around policies and boundaries, and people will be like, well, isn't it just common knowledge that you don't do that?
Yeah. It's in the highlights on my stories. How didn't you
Yeah,
know?
yeah, or
Yeah.
just or
I
just
always think
people
this.
should
What
behave
would
like
Judge
that.
Judy say?
Yeah,
What would Judge
exactly.
Judy say?
Yeah,
And it's like the first thing, I always ask, if someone's complaining about a client's behavior around this sort of thing is, well, what was your policy? It's just the first thing, isn't it? What was the
yeah,
policy? What was the agreement?
yeah,
Is there an agreement? Yeah, okay. And so if you're going to take deposits,
hmm
there needs to be a policy around that deposit.
yeah. It needs to be super clear at the time. At the time of booking in, as the same goes for things like gift vouchers. You can't just retroactively decide that a gift voucher is only valid for 2 months. You need to stipulate at the time of booking, and when that person makes that payment and enters into that agreement, they need to know what the agreement is, the contract is, and again, they need to be fair.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, legal and fair. The client needs to know about them at the point of booking. So the another
Give us
thing
some
about
examples, Maddie. Give us
yeah,
some
I'll
examples.
I'll give you some examples. So the where it becomes a little bit tricky is that like fairness would actually be kind of different, or what's reasonable might be different depending on the type of work you do and the particular type of clients that you work with. So another thing around retaining any money. So let's say you've taken a deposit for, let's say you're a bridal hairdresser, right? And someone books in with you today for an appointment 1 year from now. Let's say the total amount's 500 quid and you say, I need a £200 deposit to like hold that space. We'll do, so you make an agreement around what you'll do for consultation, for trials, how many redos, because please have something written for all this, because I see this going skew as well. Let's say that person then next week says, actually, the wedding's off, or we're going to Barbados instead, God knows. We're going to elope instead, so I want to cancel that. You can't just say this is a non-refundable deposit and I'm going to not refund it because that's the wording that I've used, because realistically and reasonably, you've got a whole year to fill that appointment. Now, if that client had booked in for next week or in 2 weeks' time even, that's not really a reasonable amount of time classically for a wedding hairstylist to be able to fill that space. But if it's just Sue who's getting like a blow dry on Friday, then reasonably, like a week, you've got time to fill that space. So that's where it can get a little bit tricky. Think very reasonably and realistically, like, have I been given enough notice to be able to fill this space? Yeah. And think of it that way.
So deposits have to be refundable within a reasonable time frame. And So talk a little bit about how some people think they can keep 100% of these, like they charge a deposit, or maybe say someone's paid up front. Like, say a bit more about that.
So, we see these sort of sliding scales, which might be like, if you give me X amount of notice, you'll you'll pay 50% or 75% or 100%. Now, you can't be put in a better financial position for someone having not come to you than if they did. So what I mean by that is, think of the profits. Say you do, just for ease, you do a colour and it's £100 bill. You can't, let's say you buy 20 quid's worth of stock. If you retain £100, you're actually up by 20 quid, because you've got that stock that you would, again, reasonably use on another client. Because with hair colour, you're probably not buying in very specific colours for that person. However, if you were booking in like a custom colour where you'd gone out and bought like all rainbow direct dyes, and you don't usually do that type of work, and you can't return that to the seller,
wholesalers.
I'll give maybe an extension example might be helpful. So I did extensions. They make up a very big amount of the bill, because the cost for the stock's really high. So if I had an appointment in 2 weeks and she cancelled, I couldn't retain 100%. Well, one, because it's very likely that I'd be able to fill that space. But let's say it's a little bit sooner. Let's say it's in about 3 days. And I go, okay, realistically, I cannot fill that space because I don't have time to do a consultation, do a colour match and order the hair. It's a physical impossibility, really, that I'm going to fill that space. So that's reasonable and fair. If I could send that hair, I've collected this deposit to really cover the cost of the hair. If I can just send that hair back and get a refund, which I would be able to if I hadn't opened the packet or tampered with it or anything, I would only be retaining the profit. So let me do some numbers. Let's say it's 500 quid. The hair costs 250. The most that I can retain is 250 is the profit portion, plus maybe a little bit for things like the postage, because I'm going to have to pay postage at both ends. And maybe, let's say, a tenner for like admin fees of me having to go to the post office and, to actually process that cancellation. I couldn't retain 100%, send the hair back, because then I'm going to be 250 quid up.
Yes.
You should not be in a better financial position. It should just be like even Stevens. Now, if the same thing happened and I'd took the hair out of the packet, because maybe I was doing a custom colour, someone's getting like a pink, and I've got the blonde, and I've coloured it that weekend for her, I now can't return that hair. So I would be looking to retain the full amount of the appointment, because I can't get the money back from that hair. However, I would be giving her that hair and said, this is yours. So if you want to go get this from someone else, or we book in another day and you would just pay the fitting cost. So does that make sense? There's like an element of,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. And I suppose it's down to people. They've got to really figure out what's fair and reasonable, because if you're doing bridal hair in a year's time, you've got to decide what's long enough that you can't fill that spot.
yeah,
If you're doing a haircut, how can you not fill that
yeah,
spot? But if you've done special work up front, you can't profit. It's about you can't be better off for someone not coming is a really, really good phrase, I
yeah.
think. And so what I know is that Timely, our partners who
Yeah.
sponsor this series of the podcast, they offer deposits and card capture. And so what do you think people should be using, deposits or card capture? Like, what do you think about those, Maddie? This is really your area.
So big up Timely, by the way, great system, and so good in how they do this. They've got something called Timely Pay. They're fabulous.
Mm-hmm.
So my opinion on this, and this is purely opinion. I think it's great that they've got the two features. First of all, I'd say anything's better than nothing. So
Yes.
literally anything that you can do to mitigate the risk and the loss to your business is better than nothing. Even if that's driving to the house and getting an envelope full of cash, I'd rather you didn't do that, but it's something. My personal recommendation is deposits. And I'll say why. So one, there's this thing of the skin in the game, like a person has parted with actual cash, or they've paid a payment on the card. So that for me is a commitment. People generally keep to their commitments, and it makes them make better decisions in the booking process of, am I really going to go here because it feels like a bigger risk and a bigger buy-in. What I see a lot in my Facebook group and other industry groups is that people get in this really tricky situation because they've turned on card capture, trying to improve the business and protect themselves. But someone's maybe used a card that doesn't have a balance. I'm pretty sure I could probably find a card lying around from like an account that I don't use or whatever. And when the person's, they've ultimately no-showed or they've cancelled, very late on, the technician, the business owners tried to charge the card, the agreed amount, everything's legitimate terms, and there's no money. And I think even just the act of, even if there is money and that everyone's agreed, it still feels for people quite awkward, like, I am running this person's card because they've just
I've got to
texted
press a
and
button
said,
now and take the money.
that
There's
feels
still
scary.
there's still that enforcement of the boundaries.
Yeah, it's a hard thing to do.
Yeah, I hear that a lot where, I see it in Facebook's group. I see it with coaching clients where they say, I then had to either press the button or ask them. That there's that thing of, I've now got to do another step. Yeah, I totally get that.
So it's like
I
removing
totally
the
get
hard
that.
step and also not putting yourself, thing is, you could have card capture on and it could be mint. It could be absolutely fine. You could never be in this position. Everyone could either just not cancel, because it is a deterrent to an extent, and you could be absolutely fine. But you are opening yourself to be in these positions of, do I have to press the button and do this?
There's always the odd sneaky person, isn't there, who's going to put a card on file with no money on it on purpose. There are these people in the world.
Sadly,
and so I suppose the risk might feel slightly higher with card capture. I mean, to me, it seems like an easy place to start, though, for sure.
Yeah, very true, yeah.
If when you're getting your policies in place. Okay, and so Timely have done some research and have some stats around deposits and card capture and all that stuff. And so I want to read some of these stats because I think these are really interesting. They've taken the time to do the research and figure all this out. And so we love some stats. And so here we go. Clients who pay a deposit spend 20% more on the day. I mean, I love that. And it makes loads of sense, doesn't it? Yeah. Because when I've spent money a while ago, it's gone now.
Well, it's girl math, isn't it?
It's girl math, and it feels cheaper on the day.
Yeah.
I feel like they're like, well, you've already paid 50, so it's only this today. And you think, well, I'll have a shampoo then. Exactly. And so, exactly the girl math. People spend more when they use deposits, which I think is fascinating. Businesses who turn on deposit systems see no drop in bookings over a 6-week period.
I love that one because people think that policies are punishments. So
Yes.
that it's going to imply that I don't trust you to come in, and they think it's a really bad, like, outwards
I think it's
representation
mean.
of the business. It's mean, it's
Yeah, it's
negative.
mean. I'm mean. I'm suggesting that people won't pay,
Yeah.
and people are going to leave me, and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
But the stats show no drop
No
in
drop off.
bookings,
Amazing. Love that.
no drop off. Next one. On average, customers not using deposits, timely pay, card capture, all that, lose £1,300 per year to no shows.
I
So if
mean,
you don't have any protection, deposits or card capture, averagely, we're losing 1,300 quid a year.
and just
It's
on
a lot
that
of money. It's a
number,
holiday.
that's, well, the way I would think of this is that's over £100 a month. Your booking
Mm-hmm.
system's not £100 a month. So
Mm-hmm.
anyone who's like, I don't want to pay, is there any ones for free? I don't think there's a truly free booking system because there tends to be like little sneaky hidden costs. But your booking system, if you use the features that are there that are designed to protect you, it will pay for itself. That's just on one feature.
Mm-hmm.
That's not taking into account the reminders, the mass emails that you can send out, the
All
fact that
of
you have
this.
online booking so people can book themselves in a convenience. Like, booking systems pay for themselves. I will not hear another word.
I think so. And I mean, I really want to throw in there one of the first things I talk to people about when they come to me with burnout is, I bet you're messaging clients all night booking appointments, aren't you? And they're like, yes,
Yeah.
but it's a conversation for another day, that one.
Mm-hmm.
And so my last stat from Timely is revenue protection features reduce no-shows by over 45%.
And don't we see, ever since really coming back from the infinite lockdowns,
Mm-hmm.
no shows have just been up. I think in general, people, from what I'm seeing, like anecdotally in the groups. So imagine reducing your no shows by over 45%, and you're not only reducing them, but the ones that do happen, you're covered for. So if
I
so,
think relying on, sorry, carry on.
I was going to say, so the alternative is you've got more no shows because you haven't used these to reduce them, and also those no shows likely haven't given you anything.
Mm-hmm.
Again, this is like, I don't know how many
Yeah.
more times I didn't say
I
systems.
just think things like relying on goodwill is
Yeah.
not smart, because
No.
it leaves you feeling very angry
Oh God,
when
yeah.
people didn't meet your standards, and you didn't protect yourself. I think it's up to you. And so this is what I think about this. I sort of see people sometimes, a lot of my clients, particularly when they're burnt out, they don't have a booking system in place. And I think a lot of the admin that they're doing is leading to the overwhelm, resentment and burnout that they're feeling. And so it feels to me like card capture's a quick win. Turn it on. Turn it on. Consultation, card capture on, cards in system. But setting up and thinking about your deposit system and what's fair for a cancellation, and a return of that deposit will take a little bit more thought. But card capture is a quick win, but setting up a deposit system, and having a policy around that is really belt and braces, isn't it? This is the
Oh
big
yeah.
thing to do. And so, I mean, I want to say, the great thing about Timely as well is they even have a template for a policy. And so if
Amazing.
you're like, I don't even know what to put in my policy, there's a template that you can use and just add your own information in. But I think also, and we talk about this absolutely loads, Maddie, in our respective programs, yours, Boss Your Boundaries, mine, Burnout and Boundaries. We help people think about their policies, because I think what's so hard is, like we keep saying, people feel mean. The
Mm-hmm.
people pleasing comes out. If I start putting deposits in, Sandra's going to think, I think she's not going to turn up. She's going to be offended. And you know what? Sandra might be. But sometimes there's an emotional side to putting your policies in. It isn't about a template, it's about actually enforcing them. And that's really where Bossy Boundaries and Burnout and Boundaries come in, is addressing the people pleasing
Yeah.
and why we might have policies and we're not actually enforcing them.
Yeah, because it's like
And
anything,
so,
I
yeah.
see this loads with pricing, and actually with most things in business, that there's two sides. There's the actual steps and the strategy and the action and implementation, but actually so much of it is around the mindset and the beliefs and
Mm-hmm.
stuff that we have. So is that what you're seeing as well from your end, is the beliefs around what a policy means or what enforcing a policy means?
Yeah, all of this. I mean, so often when I'm talking about burnout and when I start talking to people about the changes they could make, the resistance is always around disappointing people, what people will think, loss of control, all these sorts of things. And so I have ways that I talk to people around what you might see, what you can do, how to explain it, and how to introduce a booking system to your clients when maybe you've been operating for 25 years without one. And I say things to people like, just pick a date in the future, and it's like, at this date this is going to happen across the board. We're not just going to put a deposit system in with the people who have been no-showing a lot and are driving you mad. This is an across the board, non-discriminatory, it's just equal policy. And I think pick a date in the future. And I say things to people like, when you get your booking system, if you're nervous, first of all, just start gathering emails. Just start gathering emails. And when you've got all of them, then you send out this beautiful mass email that says, on this date, I'm going to start taking deposits. And you've not had to have that conversation 80 times with every client, and so it's going to remove you from awkward conversations, a lot of this. And I really like that. And I think I've heard of hairdressers say things like, a couple of older clients, when I say older clients, I mean people who've been coming a really long time, have been a little offended.
Mm-hmm.
But I think you just need to explain, this isn't personal about you. This isn't personal, Julie. This is because people do not turn up, and I can't do this. I can't charge some people and not others. That's unfair. Also, it's too much work. And so this is something that is going across the board in my business, and you always turn up. There's nothing for you to worry about. And there may be a little bit of pushback, but in the main, if it's going to save no shows over 45% in your business, it's just a no brainer. And so I think it's often about making peace with some people being disappointed, overreacting a little bit, but it will be a minority, and in the main, actually, I never hear any pushback. But we've all seen it in Facebook groups, and I've heard the odd person say someone said they were quite offended. But I think you can talk these people down quite easily. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's how I really suggest. I'm a bit like, pick a future date, make sure you're emailing that out so that you're not having that conversation. And so that's how I talk to people about getting started. But let's wrap this conversation up, Maddie. And so, what is the last thing you want to say about this? Like, what do you want people to know about deposits and all the policies and all of that? What's your last
So
word?
just kind of, as I said before, like, it's policies are not punishments. Like, it's a way to protect your business, and surely your clients want you to continue to be able to run your business. And it's actually so much easier for everyone across the board to just be like, this is the way we're going to do business. In the same way you can get into complicated, I charge little Doris this much, this person pays this much, this person can have a nighttime but they can't, this person can use a booking
Yeah.
system, all of this. And I think it creates safety as well for the client. Like, for example, if I booked a holiday with British Airways and they didn't take a deposit and they didn't send me any sort of confirmation or that my seat's booked or whatever, and they were just like, oh, Maddie, we trust you, just turn up on the day. You've always come on your holidays, so just turn up. You'll have
Yeah,
a
be all
seat. I
right.
would be like, that doesn't feel great. So from a client's perspective, I like to have a confirmation, an email, something that I can, put in my calendar, know how much it's going to cost ahead of time. Like those boundaries and policies actually make clients feel safe as well.
It's true. I mean, I say that all the time. Boundaries make people feel safe. People like to know the rules. They like to know the edges. They want to know where things change, all of that. Yeah. I think for me, I think the beauty of doing things via a booking system is that it removes you from difficult conversations. You're just one step away.
Yeah.
It feels less personal. It also feels less personal for the people receiving that notification that you took their money because they didn't turn up. It does feel a little bit more removed. And I think that makes things so much easier. And I think if you can communicate en masse instead of having to have this conversations about your new policies and boundaries every appointment for 6 months, that's just so much easier. And I think booking systems are there to make your life easier and protect your business. And I understand people's resistance to starting them because they feel they're going to lose control. But I actually think you're going to gain so much more control, really, in the end,
Yeah.
and be less exhausted and less burnt out. You know, it's the first thing I recommend to avoid burnout. Yeah. So let's wrap this up, Maddie. What's the last thing you want people to know about policies, deposits, and all that stuff?
Yeah, so if I could just sum it up in one phrase, policies are not punishments. They're there to protect your business. They're not there to make anyone feel bad or to punish bad behaviour. And it makes it actually so much easier if you remove that thought process by just doing it across the board. You know, if you were going to book a holiday with somewhere, you'd want to pay a deposit. You'd want to know how much baggage you get. You want to know your seat number. You want to have a booking confirmation. You don't just want to be told, we trust you, just turn up to the airport, we're sure everything's going to be absolutely fine. So it can just make
So
people
true.
feel a bit safer as well, like from the client perspective as well. What about you?
Yeah, that's so true, Maddie. It's so true. I think having policies and a booking system to enforce all those policies really removes you from the difficult conversations. And that's
Yeah.
what I really like about it. It puts a little bit of space between you and enforcing the boundaries. And I think that's liberating for people
Yeah.
because it means you don't have to repeat your policies and your new deposit system 100 times over 3 months to every person coming through the door. That's
Yeah.
exhausting. You know,
Yeah.
once you've gathered the emails, you do this en masse. And then even when you say, press that card capture button and get that money because someone didn't turn up, it's easier than messaging them and saying, oh, you didn't turn up, you owe me
Yeah.
75 quid. Like, it's just not going to work. And so I love the distance it puts between you and an awkward conversation, really. I
Yeah.
think that's really good for hairdressers. It makes them, it's easier, you know?
Oh yeah.
So that's it. We hope
Any ads? I'm not
yes.
really moving past that, but I'm really keen on going on a cruise. Which, when I tell most people, they're like, a cruise? It's
All right,
given
Nana. Yeah.
it's given retirement vibes. But in particular, I want to shout them out because imagine if they hooked us up with a cruise, Haley.
God, yeah.
Virgin Voyages. So I travel a lot with Virgin Atlantic. They've got
Oh,
a
you love a
cruise
virgin
line.
holiday.
They've got no kids there. No offense to children, but I don't want to be on a cruise with someone else's kids.
No,
Um,
thanks.
I don't drink, but they've got an app that you can tap for champagne and they'll just mysteriously show up, top your drink off. There's hammocks. There's one very, very bougie thing
Yes.
called Richard's Quarters or something, like Richard Branson, and you get a private,
Yeah.
I feel like you get a drum kit and a guitar and a private bar and all this.
Shop.
20 grand for like 11 days, something crackers.
So
But
you're
I want to go on this
Deep
cruise.
diving this. You're deep
diving
diving it.
There's
It's
one
on
over
your vision
Christmas.
board.
It's on the vision board. I'm trying to convince Aidan that we can just sack off all of our family obligations, Christmas, New Year, Caribbean.
We want Virgin vouchers for Christmas. Yeah, you're
so
fully into manifesting mode here, aren't you? I see it.
if Richard Branson listens, and I'm sure he does because this is a hell of a podcast, and you could hook us up, we'd happily do an episode or several from the deck. Thank you. That's mine. What's yours?
Well, I had something great happen this week, actually. I've been deep diving and hyper focusing on a product for months because it was expensive and all of that. And it arrived this week and was actually brilliant. So I want to tell you about a hyper focus that it was a big risk and it paid off. And so I was getting served some amazing ads on Instagram from this company called the One Dress Project. And it's this woman in Australia set this up in lockdown. She makes one dress and you can wear it 7 different ways, and it comes in different colors and it comes in different lengths, but it's one size. No matter if you're a size 6 or a size 24, it's the same size dress, right?
How?
And so I know it's crackers. I have been deep diving this for months because the dress is over 200 quid and you have to pay, like, I don't know what you call it, import tax or something from Australia. That was 50 quid when it turned up as a lovely shocker. I had to hand over 50 quid on the doorstep to the postman so he would actually give me the parcel. I didn't think it was going to be that much. And it felt like a risk to buy it because returning it was difficult. And it's not that they didn't have a policy. You can return it, but the tax you've paid to get it over and stuff, you know, there would be a reasonable size loss. And so I was obsessed on their website, obsessed on their Instagram. Every influencer I've ever seen, I was looking for influencers who'd bought it, who were reviewing it, you know, women who were size 24, women who were size 8. I wanted to see how it looks on everyone. Anyway, I pressed the button and I bought it a few weeks ago. It took a couple of weeks to arrive. And I tried it on a couple of days ago and I was terrified, Maddie. I was like, if this looks shit, I'm going to be heartbroken.
It's high stakes.
It felt really high stakes, but I felt like I'd done my research. Anyway, it's mega. This dress is mega. So shout out to the One Dress Project. It is a brilliant dress. And so I brought a safe one in black because I work for L'Oreal. We wear black as a company. And so I wear black a lot on stage when I'm doing presentations and all the things. And so I bought it in black because I thought this will be brilliant. I'll get a lot of wear out of it. And I thought if I love it, I'm going to buy it in a fun colour as well. But I've started obsessively looking for it on Vinted and eBay now. Because I know it works. I'm obsessed with it, but there is none to be found on Vinted and eBay. Because if there was, I would have it. I'd try and get another colour.
You need the alerts.
If someone was selling one. Yeah, I've got alerts. So I'm fully hyper-focused on this dress. I'll probably have like 7 colours by the end of the year and it's all I'll wear.
Well, I hope that for every podcast episode, you just do the same dress, different ways. I want to see it.
It's good. It's really good. Cool, we should link it in the show notes because everyone will be like, what?
I want to see it.
I need a code. I know. I keep saying I'm going to send you a link to this and I haven't done. It's, So that's my hyper focus and it paid off.
I love it. I love how this has become now hyper focus / influencing people / can we have some free stuff?
Plus what we're eating.
Never ending. Well, it's been a pleasure, never a chore. As always, a wonderful topic, I think. And if anyone's got any questions or comments, you know where to find us. We're on Instagram, show notes. Yeah, when we'll see you next week.
See you later, Maddie.
See ya. Bye.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this episode, please like and subscribe. And don't forget to leave your thoughts in the comments.
Please support those who support us and check out Timely, who we recommend as our favourite booking system for you. New customers can get 50% off their first 3 months with the code COFFEE50.